Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chief Cheat Sheet. Steve Walls and myself, Darren Smith. Here we are live at the Soaring Steakhouse down here on the historic 18th and Vine, getting you ready for today's game between the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and the Miami Dolphins down at Hard Rock Stadium, the site of where they won what, Steve?
Super Bowl live.
Oh, Cub live if you're Tyreek Hill.
That's right.
How you feeling this morning, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Wish I was down in Miami. 70-degree weather.
Oh.
You know how it is. But the Chiefs try to go down there and stay undefeated on the road.
Yeah, that would be nice. Wish they were undefeated for the entire season thus far. But all that being said, of course, today's kickoff is at noon our time, 1 o'clock p.m. Central in Miami. The Kansas City Chiefs go into today's game with an 11-1 record. Miami 8-4. Both teams have won 7 of their last 8 games. Of course, the Chiefs' only loss, of course, came against the Las Vegas Raiders earlier at home in October, I believe it was. And so, of course, the Chiefs are coming off of their win last week at home against the Denver Broncos Sunday Night Football. Of course, Miami, they're coming into the game on a win as well. So, Steve, what are you looking for? Well, what are you most looking for in today's game in this afternoon's matchup?
Well, to start, will there be any Super Bowl hangover, so to speak? You know, we'll get to Andy Reid in just a couple of seconds. But when they go down there, of course, like when you opened up the show, we talked about the Chiefs winning Super Bowl live down there in Miami, and that was just 10 months ago. I mean, so really it doesn't, because there hasn't been much going on between February and now, and it seems like the Super Bowl and the NBA All-Star Game were the last big sports events that to have taken place. And so the Chiefs will go ahead back down there, and we talked to Coach Andy Reid earlier this week about if there will be any Super Bowl hangover. And of course, you hear Coach Andy Reid and what he had to say. It was more or less a nonchalant, no, we were just going down there to play the Miami Dolphins, and we're going to take care of business.
Yeah, we'll be in the opposite locker room, so
right.
Not going to be any champagne flowing or no. He didn't pull a Draymond Green, so yeah, there's still going to be remnants of champagne. And look, Andy Reid, as always, tries to keep things business-like as possible. They just want to go down there, have the game, get out as injury-free as possible, and move on to the next game against the New Orleans Saints. That's the mindset that Andy Reid and the Chiefs have had. But they know that they're up against a pretty good defensive team that is number 2 in the league in scoring defense. Now the Chiefs, I believe they still lead the NFL in scoring at 30 points a game. However, they haven't really done it the last couple of games. And this is a team behind Pittsburgh that can hold you to 17 points. So this is going to be a battle of X's and O's between Andy Reid and Brian Flores.
It will be, but the thing about it is that Brian Flores and his newfound toy into a Tagovailoa, rookie quarterback for Miami, they're going to try to come out here and win this ball game by any means necessary. This a win for Brian Flores against a phenomenal coach like Andy Reid will definitely be something that he's able to put on his resume. And going forward, it'll be something that Tua will be able to put on his resume as well, beating a Super Bowl MVP, NFL MVP, and also a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Well, here's the thing. Brian Flores has defeated Patrick Mahomes when he was, of course, the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. I know they beat him twice, I think, in his rookie season. Well, not his first year as a starting quarterback when the Chiefs went up to New England, lost the game at the very end when Tom Brady marched down the field and the team kicked the game with a field goal. But Brian Flores was also on that New England team that came to Kansas City, pretty much shut Patrick out of the first half when they led 21-3. And then, of course, again, defensively in that game, they neutralized Kansas City until the very end, of course, until got into overtime, and then Tom Brady and their squad marched down the field. So that's something that that he has to he has the repertoire, he has the IQ, he has the insight, and he has the dogs that can get it done, including the player that played for the Chiefs last year, didn't play in the Super Bowl, but got a ring with them, Emmanuel Agba, who leads the team with 8 sacks.
And you talk about the Emmanuel Agba and what he's brought to Miami. Of course, he's brought the Super Bowl with Tyrann Mathieu. It likes to say the Super Bowl mentality and the championship swagger. He's brought that to Miami. However, when you look at Miami's defense, they have two very good cornerbacks, and that matchup is who you're going to look at when you look at this Dolphins defense.
Yeah, well, look, you got Xavier Howard, Nick Neal, but they also got the kid, I think it's Brian Jones,
Brian Jones, yeah.
from the Dallas Cowboys. Look, it has been said, and I believe that Brian Flores is going to stick with it, that he is going to have a lot of single coverage, and he's going to blitz a lot. So that's going to be key. Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback is number one. The gentlemen, they said that there's a buzz in the transmission, so hopefully they've taken our producers taking care of that. But what seems to be the issue is that if they're going to blitz Patrick, they have to understand. Patrick is number one in the NFL against the blitz. So you want to leave Tyreek or Sammy or some of those receivers single coverage, then you got to be willing to pay the price.
You do. And the thing about it is, so Xavier Howard is, according to Pro Football Focus, is the highest grade quarterback in the NFL and leading the NFL with 8 interceptions, the most for any player through 13 weeks since 2012. Now, Howard is also a 48.9 passer rating allowed when targeted, the best among 26 quarterbacks with 60 targets. So he's solid. He's a solid defensive back.
Again, he's a solid defensive back, but you're going to be going up against Tyreek.
And
that's a whole other monster.
And that's just what it is, because you look at the teams that they faced early on this season. I mean, there hasn't been a wide receiver that is matched up like Tyreek Hill. It just isn't. Now, and we've heard a lot of these teams say, okay, well, you can plan for it in practice, and you can plan for it just by gameplay throughout earlier in the season, the games that you've already had. But until you actually face this defense, the Chiefs offense, you don't really know how fast they actually are, because you're not able to plan for it by your team, because you don't have anybody on your team, on your offense, that can replicate what Tyreek Hill can do.
One of the players that we're going to be looking out for on the Miami side of the ball is Mike Gesicki, the tight end for the Miami Dolphins. He's been getting high praise recently throughout the year. I know you got a chance to talk with Mike Gesicki during Radio Row when we were in Miami last year. What does he bring to the table against the Kansas City Chiefs that the Chiefs defender should watch out for?
Well, Gesicki, he's a young guy. He's in his going into his second year, of course, he's in his second year. And the thing about Gesicki is he's a younger. When you look at a lot of these tight ends that the Chiefs have faced, you look at the tight end from Darren Waller, and then Gesicki. Darren Waller and Gesicki really mirror each other because they're both fast. They both catch the ball, and of course, is what Andy Reid says, or Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, has said that his target radius, his catch radius, is huge, because Tua can just throw the ball up and he can go get it.
Yeah, and one of the things that when you look at it, he's a safety valve. Whether it's Tua, whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, and of course, look, there could be a chance that Ryan comes in today, depending on how Tua plays. Obviously, he's a first-round draft pick, and I think he didn't play a couple weeks ago because of his thumb injury. But speaking to Cameron Wolf from ESPN on Friday, he did say that Tua's good to go, and unless something happens, we should not be seeing Ryan Fitzpatrick on today. But the issue also because you have a player of Mike Gesicki's ilk, Tua can kill you both ways, because he can also kill you with his legs, and in the same mode as Patrick, he can run away from defenders and still be able to with his safety valve being the tight end, get the ball out just in time before Chris Jones or Frank Clark get to him.
And that's the thing about it, is you have to get pressure on the quarterback. You have to. And they haven't been able to do that throughout this season so far. I mean, you saw it a little bit in the first few games. But Frank Clark and Chris Jones, as you mentioned, they both have to get after the QB. And if Andy Reid is going to do something, and Steve Spagnuolo, and we mentioned Bill Belichick each and every week, the one thing that he's able to do is take away what you do well. And he's also exceptional when going against younger quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks. So I would hope that Steve Spagnuolo does something and looks at what Bill Belichick takes a page out of Bill Belichick's book and just throws some different looks at Tua that he's never seen before.
Now, what you don't want to have happen if you're Brian Flores is that you again and I asked this question to Cameron on Friday. See Spagnuolo with what you just described, showing him things that he has not seen yet as a rookie quarterback. If you're Kansas City, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're the Los Angeles Rams. Because remember, they faced Tua his first game out as a starter, but the offense and special teams, they did a lot of bonehead mistakes within themselves, which I don't expect that from the Chiefs team.
Right.
But it is something that they have to be mindful for because they were able to capitalize on those mistakes. And Tua had a great. He had a good showing his first start in the NFL.
Look, man, we talked, or at least I said it at the beginning of the season, and you gave me grief about it. And that was about Tua, and also that Miami was definitely going to be and it was early in the season, but they were going to be a playoff team. And you didn't agree. You didn't agree early on in the season. You can look like that, but
you sure about that?
Yeah, you did. We will. I'll go back and find the clip where you said it.
Will.
Yeah, and you said what I told you was that Miami is going to be a playoff team.
Now that was
yes, and that was with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I also said that with the move that Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing well. That they didn't have a losing record, they had a winning record, playoff bound record, and for them to bench Ryan Fitzpatrick for a rookie Tua, it just didn't make sense. And I also said that they, it's going to throw off some type of you want cohesiveness with your offense and also your defense. Yeah. And you look at what Kansas City has done. Everyone knows each other. Tyreek knows what Patrick's going to do. DeMarcus Robinson, all those guys, and so they've just built that chemistry up. And when you change out a guy that in the beginning or in the middle of the season and put a young guy in there, it's going to throw off your chemistry, which is why Tua was benched. What was that, 2 games ago? And now he came back last game and played okay, but it just doesn't make sense for them to put a young guy in there over Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a veteran guy.
Well, it does help to have a good defense to kind of back you up.
Exactly.
So it doesn't hurt at all. Kansas City is 14-13 all time against the Miami Dolphins. They've won the last 2 games. Again, last week Miami was 19-7 winners over the Cincinnati Bengals. Brian Flores, as a head coach, has never faced Kansas City. Injury 5-1 against the Miami Dolphins, going back to his days with the Philadelphia Eagles as well. Right now, Chiefs have, I think, the highest scoring. Well, they have the highest passing offense and offense overall, 427 yards of total offense. Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL, 3,800 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tua Tagovailoa is 898 yards of passing, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. Patrick also, I believe, leads the league in QBR rating of 113.8. Talk about this matchup battle of the quarterbacks, because as Patrick said, they both have the same agents, so they under Lee Steinberg, so they do talk often throughout the season. Your thoughts on this matchup?
The thing about it is, I believe Tua is going to come in here or in Miami, and he's going to try to keep up with Patrick, and that's what a lot of the young guys do.
That's always the biggest mistake.
Yes, and you look at all of the young quarterbacks that Patrick has faced, even some of the veteran ones. They've come to where their coach is like, all right, this is the game plan we wanted. But when you get out there and you see that Ferrari, pulling up, and you want to match his speed, and you're not able to do that, and that's where these young guys. I mean, look at, and I hate to keep bringing him up, but look at Drew Lock and how he played. He didn't play. He didn't try to go out there and play out of his mind last week. He tried to do just enough to get a win. And you no matter how you feel about Drew, you got to understand that that's what he tried to do, and he didn't try to do things that he wasn't capable of.
He tried to do it. He did try to do it. He tried to flex, and we saw how that ended for him too Sunday night.
He just didn't have all the weapons. That's all it is.
He could have had all the weapons. He still wasn't going to win.
And the same with Tua. He doesn't have all of the weapons that the Chiefs offense has.
Tua's biggest downfall, as we look at it, Steve, in this game is going to be they don't really have a stud running back, a solid running game. The running back is Myles Gaskin, but he's only rushed for 477 yards this season. Now, the Chiefs, to their credit, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at one time was leading the league in rushing. still leads the team in rushing with 692
And
yards.
actually, Miles Gaskin will be out today because he's on the COVID-19 list.
So that again lessens the weapons or lack thereof that Tua is going to have in today's game. We haven't even talked about, of course, the COVID situation and how it could obviously be a factor to this game. Now again, we talk about Patrick only having 2 interceptions in the entire for the entire season. Both of them came against the Las Vegas Raiders, but he cannot be careless with the ball. We look at it. Xavier Howard leads the team, and I believe he leads the league in interceptions with 8. So again, Brian Flores has the dogs. They do have the capability to beat Kansas City. Patrick has to be careful with the ball. Sometimes he gets a little careless trying to make spectacular plays, which he does. But sometimes, he's been saved off those interceptions because of penalties against the defense. And so that's one thing that has worked in his favor this season. But this is a game that the slightest mistake, Miami can make Kansas City pay for it if they make those mistakes.
You're right about that. Patrick has played so far out of his mind. He's played. He can't play any better than what he's already played so far this season.
He could have covered the
and that's scary. That's a scary thing to talk about because he's due for a bad game. I mean, you think about it. Not everybody. When you look at the guys quarterback wise that have all had perfect games throughout every NFL game throughout the whole season. That's GOAT type, right? You have to put him up there. If he's able to continue on pace as what he's already done, that's unheard of.
If he continues at the pace that he'll pass for 5,000 yards this season. But I will give you a little pushback because technically he has had what you would call bad games. I think he's had maybe 3 bad games, but his bad game is still better than everybody else's.
My point.
Last week's game, I know he passed for 346 or something like that. Only threw for 1 touchdown, I believe, against the Denver Broncos. First time around, he threw for 1 touchdown, 200 yards. I think he ran for a touchdown as well. And I think against Buffalo, I think he might have passed for 200 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns. And then, so again, those are low passing numbers, but he still did what he did. So again, if you're anybody other than Patrick, that would be considered a bad game or a bad game for him. So looking at this, going back to the running game for the Chiefs, Clyde was out last week, and of course people were wondering, well, he suited up. The reason why he didn't play according to Andy Reid was that he was sick in the stomach the week before or the week prior leading up to the game, and he had lost about 7 pounds. So they didn't really want to have him in if he wasn't needed to.
Yeah, and when you look at Clyde, I don't really think they missed much. I mean, he ran for, I think it was 138 yards against the Texans. That was early in the season.
First game.
And ever since then, he's only rushed for 100 yards just once in 5 or 7 attempts. So you think about what he's done. They didn't really miss much. I mean, Le'Veon did what he needed to do, but that's the thing. They have to start figuring out a balanced offense and a balanced attack because once you get down in the nitty gritty of this season, which is now, you can't just rely on the pass.
Yeah, for me, the key that's going to be important for Kansas City is that they have got to get this run game figured out. And they also got to get the situation figured out in the red zone. That has been, if anything, if you want to beat Kansas City, you let Kansas City beat you within the 20s, and if you keep them out the end zone with their big plays, you have a chance. I mean, we've seen the last 2 weeks, the last 2 ball games against the Broncos and against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chiefs have problems getting the ball into the end zone, inside the red zone, and even if it's the goal line, I mean, we've seen where they've been forced to kick field goals because they can't seem to punch the ball in.
And you mentioned the red zone, so the Chiefs are the worst team in the red zone in the NFL at the moment. I mean, since week 10, their offense ranked dead last in red zone touchdown percentage at 33%, and their defense ranked second to last in a red zone touchdown percentage allowed, which is at 77.8%. So I mean, they're a touchdown better than the Bears in the red zone.
That's not saying much, but but here's the thing, and I don't want to harp too much on it, but where does the fault lie? Does the fault lie on the play calling, Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid? Does the fault lie the fact that you just don't have your horses up front in the line that can get the push? Does the fault lie with the running backs? Or is it just a collective amount of blame to go around?
Well, I think it's a collective all the way around because when you look at it, and we heard Eric Bieniemy talk about it, they have to be able to run the ball even when they know the defense knows that they're going to run the ball. They
Exactly.
have to be able to do that. And I've said this, and you don't agree with me, but I've said that even though Andy Reid does all of these, I guess the trickery type plays, that's been Andy Reid. We talked about it years ago when he was like, oh, well, Andy Reid, he's not going to be able to win a game unless he draws up some kind of trickery play, and that was going against the New England Patriots at that time. And now it's like, okay, he's phenomenal when they work, and he's a dud when they don't. And I'm just the thing about it, they have to be able to get it in, like you said. But even still, passing the ball inside the red zone, if it works, it works. Go with
No, yeah,
it.
no,
That's
no,
your strength.
no. Obviously, you can. I mean, they've passed the ball in their to get it, but I'm saying that sometimes, even if because what happens is, the field shortens.
Oh,
So
of course.
Tyreek can't run into the stand, so he won't. Patrick Jimmy doesn't have that much time to get the ball off. So, but again, at the end of the day, if you get down there first and goal, I'm saying you should at least try to punch the ball in, unless you obviously draw the right play up and the defense gives it to you where you can get the ball into the end zone by passing the ball. But I'm saying you don't want to become so one-dimensional where you can't get the ball into the end zone and you end up kicking field goals.
And yeah, and I totally agree. However, when you look at what Andy Reid has done with these type of plays that he's drawn up, every play that he does always leads to another play, or there's different variations off of it. So when you get down, let's just say they make it to Tampa Bay for the Super Bowl, he's going to look back on
I
planning.
hope they
Well,
do.
yeah, he's going to look back planning wise and say, okay, well, this play worked. We have a variation off of that, and so it just makes teams have to think, okay, well, now are they going to pass the ball or are they going to run? And more than likely, they're going to come up with some kind of end around or some kind of gadget play with Tyreek Hill. And you look at the old school Chiefs, who when you looked at Marty Ball in those days, who did you know that the ball was going to in the red zone?
Corey very Willard.
No, or Tony Gonzalez.
What you said, Marty?
Oh, sorry, Marty. But when you look at the early 2000s, late 90s, you knew the ball was going
Brees
to
Hall,
Tony
throw.
Gonzalez, Priest. Yeah, and you just knew it. They were going to pound it in, or they were going to throw the TG. That was it. And so I think that the Chiefs need to figure out some kind of way to get Travis Kelsey involved.
Yeah, speaking of Travis Kelce, of course, he was nominated this week as the Chiefs nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year, or one of 32 nominees across the NFL. Obviously, we got a chance to hear from Travis on Friday for the first time after he was announced as one of the awardees or one of the nominees. Of course, with that nomination, he will receive $40,000 to the charity of his choice from the NFL, and of course, becomes one of 32 finalists in Tampa Bay, in Tampa, when they do the NFL honors the night before the Super Bowl, to find out if he gets to become the Walker Payton Man of the Year award. I know we know Kelsey off the field, but what do you think this nomination means to him?
It means a lot, man. Just coming from where he came from,
Cleveland
knowing a lot of his friends that he grew up with. I mean, they those guys didn't look like him, right? Those guys, he came from the inner city of Cleveland, and he always talks about it. And one of his good friends, Eric, had told me the best way that you can, uh, you know, look at where they came from is it's a melting pot. It's a lot of different mixed variation of races, and so I think this is huge for him, especially because he's been in Kansas City for so long and seen the community change a little bit, and the fact that he's helped Operation Breakthrough and giving his own money to give them a building right across the street. So I mean, I have to give it up for him. And not only that, but he did mention Travis Kelsey and Tyron Matthew, and that was a thought in the back of my head. I was like, well, Patrick, or not sure, he mentioned Patrick and both Tyron has done a lot for this community.
Yeah, I was a little shocked because you hear so much about Patrick. You thought this year would have been Patrick and the Mahomes, or Tyron. Look, the Chiefs they have, to their credit, the players, they do a lot on and off the field. And before this group, and I would say before this GM, and to an extent maybe Dorsey, but I know before Dorsey, the guy that we have from New England. Scott Pioli.
Pioli.
Because I spoke to Scott Pioli about it, they were someone when he was here were not really out there. They didn't really have that community involvement
Right.
during that time when he was here. So the fact that they kind of got back to their roots, doing what they're doing, says a lot about the organization, says a lot about teams, says a lot about the players themselves, to where they have a solid investment in what they're doing. And again, like you said, with Travis putting together, buying the building across the street from Operation Breakthrough for that STEM program, does not hurt whatsoever. And the Chiefs could have had any number of their players be nominated for Walker Pick of the Year. So congratulations to.
And the thing about it too is they're still not done. I mean, we talked to those guys and they say that they're going to be investing a lot more money into minority-owned businesses, which I think
But
is
it's
phenomenal.
black-owned business.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, black-owned business.
Yeah,
Yes.
key difference. And so, but going back to the game, look, you talk about Travis Kelce. Travis is 5 yards behind, I believe, with DK Metcalf. He could, and I said this earlier in the season, that he could become the first tight end in NFL history to lead the NFL in receiving yards. Again, when you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, there's a good chance that could actually happen. And I think it will happen. I think it's going to come down to the last game, and it depends on who plays first, Kansas City or Seattle, to see how that unfolds. And Tyreek Hill could also be in that mix as well. What do you see offensively that Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill continue to bring with Patrick Mahomes that separates them from everybody else in the league?
Well, I mean, looking at Travis, he's a matchup problem. I mean, you try to put a linebacker on him, he's too fast. You try to put a cornerback on him, he's too strong. So, I mean, you gotta. We always talk about it. Pick your poison. Are you going to double Travis, or are you going to try to double Tyreek? If you leave your cornerback out there on that island with Tyreek Hill, he's going to blow by it. It's just simple as that. And I mean, we asked Tyreek, who helps who get open, and it's always been said that it's both. Like I said, if you want to double Tyreek, then of course Travis is going to be open in the flat. And the thing we haven't seen a lot from Travis is the fact that if you look a couple years ago, he was able to catch the ball and catch the ball on the run. He hasn't had a lot of yards after catch this year. Everything has been in the air, catch it. He's automatically tackled.
Well, there have been a few moments like that where he's got a ball, but I think it's come as a surprise to Travis, because sometimes when he catches it, there's no defender around. He turns around, he's like, oh man, I got space for yards after catch, and then by the time they get him down, he's already inside the red zone. Look, I think that people understand that you have to dedicate someone, you have to spy someone on Travis. It's like you got to have someone spy on Patrick. Again, for me, it's kind of hard.
Not enough defenders, though.
That's the point. Which again, I don't know what the Raiders were doing in that particular game in Arrowhead that they were able to do it so well, and even in the second match that they were able to do it so well. But again, I think we talk about how their offenses kind of mirror one another now with their position players. But look, when you look at this particular game, I want to know who is going to be that person that's going to be dedicated solely to watch or to spy on whatever Travis Kelce does for Miami.
You know what? It's going to have to be one of the young linebackers from Miami. Either Calvin Noy or Landon Roberts. I mean, even though they were both held out of practice earlier this week due to injuries, but I think it's going to have to be one of those guys. I mean, they're young, and when you're young, you're going to get after it. It's like, all right, I'm going to try to match up mano a mano and take him head on, and I think that's what they're going to try to have to do.
We're going to get to the defense of the Chiefs, but I want to kind of skip over to special teams. Obviously, we saw Harrison Butker, our kicker last week, kick for 5 field goals, was successful on all 5 field goals, was successful on all the extra points. But this is also going to be important as well in today's game, because again, you look at the kicking game. Their kicker that they have in Miami, Jason Saunders, has only missed one kick the entire season. He's been perfect on his extra points, 27-27. And he's only missed one field goal, 28 of 29. That could be a factor in today's game, depending on how well these defenses play.
Yeah. So, are people believing in Harrison Butker?
Well, Harrison Butker is believing in himself.
Okay. Well, hey, there it is. That's all you need.
Because I asked him last week, I said, what difference? Because him kicking 5 field goals, it says a lot. One, about the team and the confidence he has himself, but then also there was that moment in the middle of the season, and actually it was at the beginning after the game against the Los Angeles Chargers, where he made like 350-plus yard field goals. I don't know if it was because of the swag that he had as it relates to how he came in after the game in the presser, looking dapper. He looked dapper again
Right.
last week. So let's hope he doesn't revert back. But he had a low where he was missing extra points left and right each and every game. It's like, come on, this starting to become a problem. And I asked him, I said, is there something different that you're doing? And one of the key things that he said was he is believing in himself. And again, I don't know what it might have been mentally that was maybe shaking him off or whatever. But whatever quirks he was working on has been working thus far. The last 3 games, I believe.
It would still be in the first. He would still, if you look at it, they didn't have special team preseason, so he would have had those 4 games to get into a rhythm, get because kickers they don't sit out preseason at all.
Yeah, but it's
And
December. You can't really go back
well,
to
I
preseason.
what I'm saying is when he had the struggles
Yeah.
a few games back, that would have been those struggles. He would have been able to get all those kinks out in the first half of the season because it would have still been. We would be looking at what week? Yeah, this would be week 8 if you look at or week 9. This week would be so. That being said, I think he's going to hit his stride, and you shouldn't see any. I'm saying this. I want to write this down in pencil if you're keeping notes. So hopefully he doesn't have any other mishaps this season.
All right, and of course, looking at the defensive side of the ball, Chris Jones still leads the team in sacks at 5.5. We've been talking about this for the last month and a half, it seems, where he's leading the team in sacks at 5.5. Obviously, I know that's something that we've talked with Frank and a few others about the last few weeks, and I don't know if it's to their credit, to their detriment. They're not concerned about the sacks, which again is shocking because if you're not getting sacks, are you really getting pressure on the quarterbacks?
Man, that it was when I heard Steve Spagnuolo say that and just saying that the statistics from sacks isn't a huge factor in meaning that you're not being aggressive or not making a key effort on defense, which I don't agree with that. If you look at the Chiefs, just over my lifetime at least, they've always had at least one guy that's been able consistently to get after the quarterback. They've always had just one guy. They've never
Hell,
just
we've had Chris Jones the last 3 years, three,
exactly.
four
So
years.
this year is kind of one of those outliers where it's like, geez, why are you guys not able to get after the quarterback? Like, I mean, because you look at other teams, you look at Aaron Donald, you look at any other defense, top defender in the league, and those guys, whether they're double team, triple team, they're still going to make a difference on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't agree with that. To me, again, I talked about it a few weeks ago. Coming into the season, Chris Jones talked about leading the league in sacks. He wanted to get in that defensive player of the year conversation along with Aaron Donald. Now we see Aaron Donald still get double, triple team, and
Right?
he leads the NFL with 12.5 sacks. And so
Is
to
it
me,
is it Aaron Donald or is it Watt? Is it TJ Watt?
no, Aaron Donald after Thursday
Okay,
night.
okay,
So yeah, he's 12.5. Watt is at 12. But Watt's a linebacker.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Versus someone who double, triple team every single down that he's in. So for me, I can't allow that to be an excuse as to why those players aren't back there getting to the quarter because other players are doing it. I mean, and other
Right.
players are getting double and triple team constantly. Not saying Chris Jones and Frank Clark aren't, but not to the extent that these other guys are. And so and for me, again, say you got the money, and Chris Jones got paid, and yes, when we talk about what they've done last year in helping the Chiefs lead the Chiefs to a Super Bowl victory. But again, not to be Debbie Downer, but it's what have you done for me lately because your play is representing what you've been doing all season, and if and if it continues in the postseason, that can be the same type of play or the same type of effort that can get you beat.
I agree. And the fact that they're not able to get after the quarterback I mean, this that could be some writing on the wall for the Dolphins and what they're going to try to do today, and that is keep Tua on the move and let him do what he does best. And it's kind of like you're going to be the younger brother to Patrick today and try to do whatever he does, which is get outside of the pocket and make a play. And this Chiefs defense has to keep Tua inside. And Steve Spagnuolo, like we said earlier, he has to draw up some stuff that he's never seen before. Draw up some different blitz coverages, disguise some things, Because if you remember what Tyrann Matthew said about the Raiders, which is their only loss of the season, the Raiders caught them in some different looks that and did some stuff that they weren't ready for going against their offense. So I think Steve Spagnuolo has to do what the Raiders did to them.
When you look at the defense side of the ball, again, we talked to Kansas City. Kansas City, Tyrann Matthew has played well, or has played better the last couple of weeks. He had an interception that fell into his lap against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks. He had two interceptions last week against Drew Lock. Uh, when you look at the play of the defensive backs in Kansas City, I mean, they should be able to win the matchup against the wide receivers in Miami. Your thoughts on that matchup? Look, we got a chance to hear from Bashaud Breeland this week. Obviously, Javarius Warren has played much better. L'Jarius Sneed. I talked with Juan Thorndale Friday. We were at the barbershop and I talked to him Friday. I mean, he's expecting to get an interception today, so I'm holding to it. I put some money down on him getting an interception. But what are you seeing in this matchup with these Chiefs defensive backs and this wide receiving core for Miami?
Oh man, the thing about the defensive backs is they're aggressive. They're led by Tyron. As he goes, they go. And the good thing about it is they've all had their time to shine. Only person that really hasn't is Travaris Ward, and I think that was some of the stuff that was going on in his mind when he said that he's in a slump, and he was playing with one hand like you just said. So he's the only guy that really hasn't had that success so far. Even Dan Sorensen, people get upset when Dan Sorensen is guarding a guy on the guarding a receiver or guarding a linebacker or trying to guard a running back out in an open field.
But they sure love it when he's making that fourth down stop.
I was just getting ready to say that exactly, or he's ending the game on an interception. They love him for that, and so Dirty Dan is another guy that's a leader. He's a quiet leader, and lets his play speak for itself. But I think Juan getting back in the mix, and I don't know if you were able to see it. And I don't know if our viewers were able to see that Juan saved a touchdown last week. I mean, and you saw where he didn't look like he was injured to me as he was trying to chase down the running back. And so I think Juan is going to definitely be key in this game today.
All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. We come back, we're going to finish up on this game and look at the other games in the NFL. You're watching the Chief Cheat Sheet right here on social media. We are back on the Chief Cheat Sheet with social media, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, not Instagram just yet, but of course Periscope, Twitter, all that and then some. Steve, let's look at the coaching matchup. Obviously, Andy Reid, Brian Flores. What do is there anything that you think that Brian Flores will be able to do in today's game that Andy Reid may or may not be expecting?
He's gonna try to put out all the stops. I mean, remember, this is they're trying to defend the title, so they're gonna get everyone's best each and every week. And I mean, when you go back to even the Carolina Panthers game, the Carolina Panthers went forward on fake punts. They did some things that the Chiefs weren't ready for. And I think if you look at just some of the teams that have played this Chiefs team, they've done a lot of stuff that we just kind of head scratching on. Why would you do that? And then I mean, you have to look at it. It's like, all right, these are resume builders going up against a historic coach like Andy Reid.
Now look at this game. The Chiefs, they are 19-8 between takeaways and givers are plus 11. Dolphins are plus 11. Excuse me, they're plus 7. 21 takeaways, 14 years. So they can they can cause teams to turn the ball over. So the Chiefs have to be very careful in today's game with obviously keeping the ball, holding the ball, not fumbling the ball. So of course, the running backs, Patrick, they have to make sure that they don't get stripped of the football. Again, Patrick has to be careful when he throws the ball because they do have Howard again, who leads the NFL with 8 interceptions. Now, in Brian Flores' defense, he has the dogs. Look, signed a lot of good players in the offseason. They signed Shaq Lawson, Emmanuel Ogbah, again, Jordan, I'm sorry, Jones out of Dallas, of course, and we got Howard. So they have the Rough Riders that can get it done in the ball game against Kansas City. All that being said, Steve, give me your X factor in today's game for both teams.
Ooh, I think with what we talked about earlier in the day. Well, I have two. Can I have two?
You can have two. I'll
Okay.
give permission.
All right. Cool. Let me have two. So the first one is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. The Chiefs have to score in the red zone. They just do. I mean, you have to not be just one-sided. And if you need to punch the ball in, you need to punch the ball in. And that being said, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to be able to step up, and also Le'Veon Bell, just because we haven't seen the wow factor from the running back. We just haven't. And on the defense,
But out of the statistics, when you get to, they haven't really allowed the running game to really show what it can do.
they
And
have.
but some of that is the defense and what the defense gives them. But also, at the end of the day, you got like you said, you got a Ferrari back there. You're kind of letting Patrick kind of lead because they call a lot of RPO plays, and Patrick, because you're doing that, they've already said that they give Patrick permission to, if he sees it,
Yeah.
run it or pass it. So of course,
MVP Pat, huh?
yes, so
MVP
I'm sorry,
Pat.
but you can go.
Yeah, so on the defensive side of the ball, they have to make sure that they get after the quarterback, get after, do some things, draw some stuff up, different blitz coverages, blitz early and often. So that would be my two keys again.
For me, X Factor now was that just for Miami or for both teams?
That was just for the Chiefs. Yeah.
Okay, well for me for Kansas City, it's always going to start up front. Got to start with the line. You got to win the line of scrimmage. You don't win the line of scrimmage, then it's going to be a long day.
Right.
Kansas City for me, they have won. They haven't covered the spread. They haven't covered the over under the overall points the last four balls.
7.5 today, right?
7.5, yeah. And so it depends. I think it's more than the 7 when I woke up. But you look at it again. I don't I don't know if we should expect a high scoring game because Miami and their defense is legit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they are 8-4 now. You lose a couple of games, like you really lost that game, but talking to Cameron, they're a year ahead of where they expected to be. Because again, you didn't know the quarterback situation. You didn't know if Fitzpatrick was just going to be able to get you through the season.
Right.
But defensively, but overall as an organization, they are probably a year ahead of schedule. Well, that means that they have nothing to lose. Like you said, they have everything to play for. If you're Kansas City, you've got to win the line of scrimmage. If you're that defensive line, you've got to get after to it. It's one thing to say, well, because you're not getting sacks, you're not getting pressure. Well, it means you're not getting to the quarterback when the quarterback has enough time. And if you're not getting to him, if you're not hitting him, if he's not thinking that, okay, oh man, my line is giving me all this time,
Right.
then he can beat you. Maybe he can look. He was the most accurate quarterback in college football history, throwing the football. He can throw the football. He still has 0 interceptions now. So, it's going to be up to the defense, like you said. Put something out there that he hasn't seen. But if you don't get pressure on him, he can beat you with his legs. Look, he's not afraid to take a hit. We know about his hip injury, but he's still not afraid to go out there and to get a first down if that's what it takes to win the ball game against his team. And he wants to have a good showing. So for the Chiefs, line of scrimmage is the key factor.
You talked about his hip injury. He's not the same player that he was when he was in college. Right now, I just don't see it. I just don't see the explosiveness that we
He
saw.
hasn't had to be.
True, but I guess we don't have a sample size either.
But also, if you get sacked a few times from Aaron Donald and you're able to get up and because trust me, they were going after him knowing his injury history and knowing that was his first time. They were going after him, they were hitting him, and he still got right back up.
And so if we look at the X factor for if the Dolphins want to win this game, they have to score over 30 points. They've only been able to do it 2 times this season. They scored 43 points against the 49ers and 31 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
But
they
I
have to score
disagree
over
with
30.
that. I disagree with that because if your defense only gives us 17 points and they're number 2 in the league, it's going to be important for Kansas City to score the points because if the defense say, hey, we can hold them to 17, then that just means you just need to do just enough. You need to score at least 21. What I'm saying,
You don't want to do just enough.
No. I'm with you. No, I'm with you. Don't want to do just enough, but also again, but if you got them dogs out there, if the defense does what they're supposed to do, Kansas City has to worry about scoring enough points because if the Dolphins scored 21-24, the defense said, "Hey, if you hold them to 17, we good." Then that's what you got to do.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if our keys work.
All right. So who you got in today's game?
I'm going to go with.
Now, I don't know if we answered. You had the Chiefs going 13 or 12 and 4, 13 and 3. So who you got today?
I did, and here's the thing about it, man. That was a sliding scale. we grading on a curve here.
Oh, okay. On the average. Okay,
nah, but this is a game where Chiefs fans can be kind of concerned because, like you said, the Dolphins are 8-4. Their record really doesn't speak to how good their defense is, and but the thing is, they really haven't seen Chiefs offense like they just have, and so. I mean, I'm going with the Chiefs in this one. However, there's going to be a closer game at the beginning, kind of like last week. I said it wasn't going to be a blowout game against the Broncos. I did, but I also said it was going to be 34 to 40 or 30 something like that. But it's going to be a lot closer game. However, the Chiefs are going to have 34 and the Dolphins will 27.
I'd love for the Chiefs to have 34. That means they would be hitting the over. I don't see. I think the Chiefs get 28. I think Patrick does score. I think he does throw 4 touchdowns, 3 at most, and then maybe get something on the ground. I see that happen. I don't see the Chiefs getting 30. I got a little bit more respect for Brian Flores' defense. I think they're going to know some stuff out there, and I think they're going to get after Patrick because of the problems with the offensive line.
And Chiefs fans ought to remember Brian Flores when he was in 2018.
That's what I said earlier.
Yeah, you gotta remember.
So Chiefs win. Obviously, I mean I had them going 9-0, so I got the Chiefs winning. But I got the Chiefs winning this game. Unfortunately, I would love to say they would cover the point spread, but since I'm not betting with the points anymore, I got the Chiefs winning this game 28-24. Okay, I think it's going to be much closer. Look, I think Tua is going to, like you said, this is going to be one of those games where a coming out party, so to speak. It's going to be most of the nation is going to be watching this game. You got Jim Nance, of course. You got to have Tony Romo, Tracy Wilson calling the game. So this is the game that a lot of America is going to see in the early portion of the game of the day to day. And so with that, if you're the Miami Dolphins, you want to at least keep the game close to where you have an opportunity if you're Miami to try to win the game toward the very end. But at the end of the day, Patrick and this offense is going to be too strong for them, where I see them winning
28-24. Yeah. It's going to be a game to watch. If there was a game that the Chiefs could lose, it would be this one against Miami.
There is, of course, other games on the slate today, Steve. I want to get your thoughts on it. Just who you think's going to win, lose. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off their bye. Of course, their last game was against Kansas City when they lost, but coming off their bye, they will be hosting the Minnesota Vikings today.
I'm going with Tampa Bay. Tom Brady off of a bye. He's had a lot of time to be able to get Antonio Brown into the mix and try to figure things out. So I'm about to go with Tampa Bay today.
We got, I'm going with Tampa Bay as well. Houston Texans traveling to Chicago Bears.
This is a tough one. The Texans have struggled a little bit this season, at no fault to Deshaun Watson. However, so I think I got the do I have the Texans? I do have the Texans in this one. I do.
Got to remember your bets.
Yeah.
I got the Texans as well. I know they're 1 point, 1.5 point favorites. Look, they don't talk about they do talk about it, but unless they're really asked about it. But Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, they always have a little something up there, in the back of their minds about this team. Chicago Bears picking Trubisky over them, so that's something that Deshaun mentioned this week. So I expect them to bounce back from the game that they lost last week at the end of the ball game against the Indianapolis Colts to win this game. Uh, One of the stinkers of the game, they got flexed out, thankfully. The Dallas Cowboys against the Cincinnati Bengals. They got flexed out next week, but they travel on the road, go to Cincinnati, facing Joe Burrow. Let's see who you got.
I have Dallas today. You know, I mean, it's
That's a
not,
tough bet, man.
it hasn't been often this season that I've gone with Dallas, but today, I mean, they looked decent last week. They really did, and so.
Not on run defense, they did. They
Well, I mean, they did, but still, I mean, they look offensively. They look good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Ezekiel Elliott seems like he's trying to figure things out, so to speak, and you know, Andy Dalton. I mean, he was rolling last week, so I mean, I got to go with Dallas.
That's fair. This is such a hard game. Both teams are just bad. They're just bad.
Wow.
I got the Bengals winning at home in an upset. I got the Bengals +3 today, so Cowboys can still win, but as long as as long as the Bengals are within 3, I'm good. Now this is going to be an interesting matchup. Team that's lost 3 games in a row versus a team that's won 4 games in a row. Arizona Cardinals, New York Football Giants.
Ooh, I'm going with Kyler Murray, man.
He's so predictable. I know he's good.
Yeah, I have to. Even though I feel like the Giants are due, they're due. So, but Kyler, it just seems like things are looking well for them, and that's what you have to go with.
I don't think Kyler has ever recovered from the shoulder injury that he had on that Thursday Night Football before.
In Seattle.
In Seattle, and so because of that, and Isaiah Simmons is hurt, DeAndre Hopkins is hurt, Kenyon Drake is hurt. So those are, I think they'll play, but they're not going to be 100%. And that could be a factor.
Saying goes, if you playing, you 100% no matter what.
I'm with you. But I got the Giants winning this game in an upset. What I would call an upset. I mean, they're leading the league, or they're leading their division, while Arizona losing 3 games in a row. They're falling out of playoff contention. So the Giants, they need to win to stay ahead of Washington. I like the Giants in this ball game. Broncos, Panthers.
Wow. And this is one on the betting side you couldn't parlay with anything.
Thankfully.
I'm going to go with the Broncos, man. I'm not going to let you talk bad about my guy Drew Lock. You know, they're going to get a win. They're going to get a win today, and mark it down in pen.
Okay, I am going to go with the Carolina Panthers. The game is at home for them. They're 4-point. No,
I give it to you though. You've been consistent.
Yeah.
You've been consistent going against Drew.
No. I picked them a couple times, but what I'm saying is this: that again, they still got to get their situation organization-wise under control. But the Panthers, they just have a better starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is more consistent. He has better weapons, and they're playing at home and they have a better defense. So I like Carolina Panthers in this game. Okay. So it's nothing against Drew Lock. It's just maybe next week it might be. Tennessee Titans travel to Jacksonville, take on the Jaguars. Tennessee 7.5-point favorite.
Tennessee
are they covering?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I got the Titans as well. Indianapolis Colts, Las Vegas Raiders. This game is in Las Vegas. This is a battle between the number 7, number 8 playoff teams.
Yeah. As much as I want to go with Las Vegas, I'm gonna have to go with Rodney and Rivers today.
Again, it was hard for me to go with the Raiders because you don't know which team is going to show up. You don't know if it's going to be the one that scored 31 against the Chiefs. You don't know if it's going to be the one that scored 6 against the Falcons, or the one that almost blew the game last week against the New York Jets, who of course gave away the game with that last-second defensive call. I like the Colts on the road. I just think they have a better offensive line. I think their defense is much better than the Raiders. And of course, this is a battle between 7 and 8 positions for the AFC playoff race, and I think that the Raiders are going on the back end while the Colts are still trying to stay alive. The Jets and the Seahawks. Jets are 0-12, Seahawks 8-4, but the Jets are underdogs by 15 points. Did you take the points on this one?
That is a lot of points. I did take the points.
You got the Jets plus 15.
Yeah,
I did too.
I
did a money line bet for the Seahawks, but I definitely did. I definitely took the Jets at plus 15.
The thing about it is, like, if you're a professional athlete, you're losing. like every game. How does that like make you feel? Because I know me, I'm competitive, and it just seems like, come on, man, how can you lose every single game?
I'd be feeling a certain kind of way, man.
I just don't understand it. I couldn't. I
How
just
could you
couldn't.
go home and look at your woman or your kids?
If it were
Like
me,
you're a loser.
nah. The thing about
Not as much
the
as
thing
you're
the
a
thing about it
loser.
is, and I don't really think it's the players. I really think it's the front office and coaching. You know, what I mean, they had a win last week. They
That
really did.
is
We
that is a whole show conversation within
yeah
itself. Because that breaks down the. Sue and I talked about that. That's an organization that we have to. You literally got to spend a day just discussing that because there are so many aspects to that to where you can see the difference between at the time the Patriots, the Chiefs, Steelers, stuff like
yeah.
that, where you just have consistency, and that's something that again that's a serious conversation to have for another time.
But before we move on, it's one of those things too. It's like, well, man, you trying to you making a business decision. It's like, am I gonna go out here and risk injury and it's late in the season to where if I get a torn ACL or something like that, I'm missing all next season. So it's kind of you just going out there doing just enough.
Yeah. Next up, you got the Packers, Green Bay Packers, and the Detroit Lions. Detroit came back last week against Chicago, scoring I think it was 34-30. Beat them.
Yeah, I got the Packers.
Packers 7.5. What was it? 8.5, 7.5 point favorites. You
Yeah,
taking the points?
they'll cover.
Okay, I got the Packers as well. I don't think they're gonna cover, but I do have them. No, I can take it back. I bet $25 on them to cover. So yeah, they got to. The Saints at the Eagles.
Ooh,
This is going to be the start of rookie Jalen Hurts. He's going to be starting the rest of the season as well, according to the report.
Taysom Hill's been balling, man. You can't go away from the Saints right now. They're my team to meet the Chiefs in Tampa Bay. So I'm gonna ride with them.
All right, I got the Saints winning the game as well. They're 7.5 point favorites. Are they covering?
Yeah, I think they will. And I'm going with the over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, the over's only like 43.
I know.
So hopefully they can do it. Falcons and the Chargers. Chargers, of course, are coming off that embarrassing 45-0 loss to the Patriots last week. The Patriots, in turn, on Thursday, only scored 3 points against the Rams. How's this game unfold?
This is a pick'em game too. And
Well,
so
1.5.
they are. Well, earlier
I
it was
know.
a pick'em game, but I'm going with the Falcons in this one.
Now, they're going to be without Julio.
I know they've been without Julio for the past couple weeks, so yeah. What else is new? But yeah, I'm going with Falcons.
Literally, you can flip a coin with this. I am going to go with the Chargers at home. And look, if Anthony Lynn loses back-to-back games like this at home, he might not be there. Black Monday for him might come tomorrow. So I'm going with the Chargers in this one. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup. The Washington football team against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I went with Washington. I mean, they're hype after that win last week, man. I mean, you keep a team from going undefeated. I mean, you have to. You got to ride with him. Alex Smith is looking like we talked to Patrick. He's looking like the Alex Smith of old. So you got to go with Washington.
You know it. You are right. He is looking like the Alex Smith of old. I remember it was 3rd and 11. He threw a 3-yard pass. So, yeah,
Come
you're
on,
right.
man.
It is the Alex Smith of old. However, just like you, I did go with Washington as well.
Okay. All right.
Late night tonight, Steelers, Bills. Of course, this game is important. You know, this is a good game for Chiefs fans because you get the 12 o'clock game with the Chiefs. You get a chance to go by Gates or Treacy's or Soul Food Catering, and you get your meal ready for Sunday night football. You got the Steelers, you got the Bills. The Bills are coming off their Monday night win against the San Francisco 49ers. Chiefs fans are pulling. Chiefs fans are all going to be Bills fans tonight because if they win, Chiefs handle their business. Buffalo wins tonight. Chiefs are in the driver's seat. They're in first place.
Right, and you don't want it to come down to where it's a tie. It's a tie, and the Chiefs go, 15-1, and the Steelers go 15-1. And if they don't lose to Buffalo, then Pittsburgh, of course, will have the edge because of record and their win percentage.
Well, no, because they also have to play Cleveland, I believe. So.
But the Chiefs haven't played Cleveland.
No, but I'm saying, but if Cleveland beats them, that's still
sure.
a second loss. So
yeah,
basically, Chiefs need to win out. Pittsburgh needs to at least lose one game for the last 3 games.
Right.
So who you got in this game?
Man, and the funny thing about it is that Buffalo is a favorite.
Yeah,
I was surprised, but I'm gonna have to go with Pittsburgh tonight, man.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going with
Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh.
back.
Yeah, and maybe just because I gotta go with the underdog on it.
No, you don't.
You don't, but I did.
Because I went with Buffalo. Last time these two teams played, it was was, I believe, Sunday or Thursday night football. It could have been Monday night, but they played in Pittsburgh last year. Pittsburgh beat Buffalo 17-10. If you are Buffalo, you have an outside shot to be the number 2 seed. Actually, you have to be a number 3 seed,
Right.
so you're on the losing streak. You want to show that you are an elite team in the AFC. Granted, yeah, you lost to Kansas City, but there's no shame in that. But if you can beat Pittsburgh, and again, Pittsburgh won their final 2 games, because people didn't expect Pittsburgh to be 11-1 or 12 or anything like that. So if you can get Pittsburgh where they're on the slide, you have a chance to jump them to be the number 2 seed. And I think this is a big game. This game is at home, Sunday Night Football. I think under the bright lights, Josh Allen, this is the game that he's going to hope to live up to. I like Buffalo in this game tonight.
I like that synopsis. You about to make me change my pick. I like that,
But
Darren.
hey,
Gotta give credit when it's due. I like that.
There is still time to make some more picks before we get
Okay,
out of here.
I like that.
But because again, now we also don't know how Pittsburgh is going to react after losing their first game.
True.
We saw what Kansas City did. We saw,
They just looked like they were tired last week, man. They just
and with all the movements that they had to deal with. But Mike Tomlin, he don't accept excuses.
No, of course not.
So I am interested to see how they bounce back. But at the end of the day, I like this is the game where I'm not really high on Buffalo. I think Sterling's kind of worn off on me as it relates to this, but I like Buffalo at home in this game, Sunday Night Football under the lights, knowing what could potentially be at stake for them. I think they show up, and I think Chiefs fans, if they win in Miami tonight, the Chiefs fans have a good night's sleep tonight, knowing that they'll wake up number 1 in the AFC in the morning.
But you got to keep winning.
Got to keep winning, and then again next week we'll see whether or not you can hold on to your to what happens when your Super Bowl matchup faces off against them. Steve, before we get out of here, man, who you got on today?
I have to give credit to the good people down at Hall's Crown Center. Remember, you can check them out, 3rd floor of Crown Center, downtown Kansas City. You can find anything from your favorite lines, from Gucci, Louis Vuitton. They also have a one fit where you're able to get fitted for a suit that you need for your game day look, whether it's going to work, whether it's hanging out on your Zoom call at home. You can find a great sport coat. They also have the bridge down there where you can find a pair of jeans and a blazer.
All right, and of course, the one and only Mr. Todd White of Todd's Clothes here at the Taylor Shop. Got your boy looking nice, fresh, and clean. Of course, you can find him. He is now open over in the Ward Parkway Shopping Mall. If you go right, it's right outside of Five Guys. Once you go inside, right off of 86th, 85th, and State Line. Go there, tell them we sent you, and might make you look all nice and dapper. I think he styled Le'Veon better, so we'll see what he looks like coming into the game today. But Steve, another week down, week 14 is fast upon us. Of course, make sure you join us tomorrow night on the Red Hour with myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, along with Sean Tyler. Steve, what are we giving away tomorrow night?
You still have an opportunity to win one of the Patrick Mahomes Christmas ornaments. So make sure that you get on the Red Hour page on Facebook. Don't have to leave Facebook. I know everyone's watching us via Facebook. So type in the Red Hour Show, KC, and you'll be able to register to win a Chiefs Patrick Mahomes Christmas ornament.
And I was going to say, we do want to thank Miss Chef Anita Moore for allowing us to do the show today inside the Soiree Steakhouse, located down here on the historic 18th and Vine. Steve, any final words before we get out of here?
Yeah, just thank you to Chef Anita. Remember, you can come down here and Monday through Sunday today they'll be having their brunch. So come down here and grab something to eat, get ready for the game.
All right, so that'll do it for us. We'll be back, of course, with the post-game stuff. You can catch us on our respective Zoom, on our respective pages with our Chiefs Zoom calls. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and 2 of the other playmakers in today's game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, of course, join me tomorrow at 3 o'clock on ESPN Kansas City with Sterling Holmes. I'll try to see if I can pry Steve away from the computer to join us for the hour to recap tomorrow's game. And then, of course, the Red Hour at 6:30 p.m. So for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so very much for joining us. Remember to mask up, social distance, and stay safe.